Here's your host, Chelsea Edwards.
Welcome to another episode of Chattin with Chelsea. I'm your Daytime Bestie, Chelsea Edwards. We've got so much that you need to know today. We are chatting about the do's and don'ts of disability benefits. And we've got an attorney who's helping families understand the process and the pitfalls. First, we're meeting a mother on a mission to change the conversation around Down syndrome. Through her nonprofit, Precious Creations, she's raising awareness that people are living longer lives and proving old statistics wrong after her own daughter recently celebrated a major milestone. Welcome to Chattin' with Chelsea, Alantha Scott. Thank you for coming and sharing this story with us.
You're welcome. I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so precious. So precious. I love that she has hit 25 years old. Yes. That is amazing. Yes. What has that meant for you? Because from my understanding, a lot of people with Down syndrome may not live that long to see 25.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's been a journey. It's been a roller coaster that we enjoyed, so it's been just an amazing experience. And for me, just giving birth to her and being able to share our story and to be able to share her, and just to be able to share what we've endured and experienced during this time has been really, really amazing.
Yes, a lot of lessons learned, but also a lot of joy as well.
A lot of lessons, a lot of joy. When Precious was initially born, I didn't know, that she was Down syndrome. I found out the day that she was actually born, that she had characteristics of Down syndrome, so I didn't know, I found, when she was born, she had respiratory distress at birth, and so immediately she went into the NICU unit, and I later found out that she had respiratory distress and that she had characteristics of Down syndrome. So instantly, my life changed May 3rd, 2001.
It was the hospital that broke this news to you?
Yes, it was the hospital, yes.
Did they give you initial guidance after they told you that?
Yes, after Precious was born, the day she was born, I overheard the nurse say something was wrong. Something was wrong with her face. So instantly, I was a disconnect for me, so I knew something was wrong. I did read what to expect when expecting. Okay. So that's what I wasn't expecting anything to go wrong during birth. And so that stuck with me. And then, we had the emergency cesarean. I had an emergency cesarean because her heart rate had dropped. And so we had to immediately go through a delivery. And so once that happened, she was immediately taken away. And then when the doctors came, they told me that she had respiratory distress. They explained it to me. They told me about the meconium. It was like she drowned. And so immediately at the hospital, it was Lakeside Hospital in Metairie, Louisiana, they started to immediately give me information at the hospital.
Wow, was that overwhelming at the time? Oh, okay.
Extremely.
All right, so how did you make sense of everything? Especially, it's already a lot when you've just given birth to a child, and now you know that you have some extra challenges up ahead.
It was shocking. I can honestly say it was devastating because I didn't prepare. I wasn't prepared for Down syndrome, but I was prepared for a new baby. So I immediately did not want to have my child separated. I wanted to continue to enjoy that moment. So I just immediately became instantly, when they told me that she had respiratory distress, they told me that, they didn't tell me about characteristics of Down syndrome until maybe a couple of hours later.
Oh, okay.
And so
they followed up with that.
Yes, immediately. Okay. Everything happened rather quickly. So it was a lot, but I was able to just shift the what ifs and what my previous expectations were from having a baby until now I have to get this baby well.
How else has your life shifted over the past 25 years?
Oh, it shifted in so many ways. Because of Precious, my life changed into advocacy. First and foremost, I wanted to find out everything that I needed to know about Down syndrome. I was the first in my family to have a child with an intellectual disability. So I immediately contacted the Down Syndrome Association of Greater New Orleans. And contacting them, I was able to get linked to resources. And they had a little packet at the hospital that told me some stuff. I just never stopped learning. I never stopped reading. I just became just totally fixated on wanting to know what is it that I need to do to ensure her quality of life. Because something the doctor said to me in the hospital, I'll never forget, instantly he separated my child from the other children in the NICU. And he said, those babies does well in society. You have to prepare them for the cruel society in which we live in. People are cruel, children are cruel, so we have to be able to create a safe haven for her. And this was during the process of identifying. We wasn't quite there yet. We didn't know she had Down syndrome. All we knew was that she had characteristics. And so when he told me that, he was just trying to enlighten me on just to get prepared. Because if the doctors come tell you that your child has characteristics of Down syndrome, I'm pretty sure they do.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they have it.
All right, so it was already in your head.
Yes.
Let me get ready for this. Okay, so you've learned so much over the years. You're going to share some of that information with us because you have become an advocate through your daughter. Yes. But we got to take a quick break. We got to pay some bills, so we're going to be right back after this. You don't want to miss this.
Come back to me.
Welcome back. A disability diagnosis can change your life emotionally, spiritually, financially, especially. And Olantha has dealt with that when your daughter was diagnosed with Down syndrome. She is 25. She's doing well, but you had to learn a lot of ways to manage as she was growing up. What were you doing before Precious was born?
Ironically, prior to when Precious was born, I was working for the Muscular Dystrophy Society in New Orleans. And so I was already working with people with disabilities. So it was kind of ironic that I was already in the community. It's just, I never would thought that I would actually have a child with Down syndrome and intellectual disability. So it changed a lot for me.
And then you decided to open up your own practice, your own agency.
Yes, because of Precious and understanding that, a lot of people, first things that people like to do is to put their individuals with disabilities and especially intellectual disabilities in institutions. And I learned that earlier on, so my goal was to find out what resources was available so that I can keep Precious home with the necessary supports and services. Okay. I met a lot of parents throughout this journey, a lot of caregivers, a lot of other advocates. It ignited a different passion for me to educate families on what they need in order to keep their families at home with the necessary supports and services. So I learned from a personal perspective the importance of it, and as I learned, I shared.
Okay, so were these other families also were they just unaware of the options that you had already researched?
A lot of people were unaware of the options, and it was also different factors. It's socioeconomic factors, where people live, where resources are given as it relates to the dissemination of what services is available. So resources was important, and I learned, through talking to other parents and being in the specific community of the Down syndrome community, that people really just didn't know.
Yes. Okay. So what was something huge that you learned early on that was changing for you when it came to Precious?
Not being able to qualify for Medicaid. So as a small business owner, I had private that wasn't in alliance with being able to qualify for certain services.
Okay, gotcha.
So I had to find out about resources in order to get connected to Medicaid, get connected to early childhood intervention. So I had to find out about the home and community-based services and supports. So it affected me in a sense of, in the beginning of Precious' birth, I couldn't really work because Precious was gravely ill. So we had to meet, poverty guidelines and different things in order to get benefits and services in order to even get help.
Wow. Okay, so you couldn't even access the help that you originally found out about. How long did it take you to access that?
While in a hospital, we was able to apply.
Okay.
And then once we got out the hospital, we was able to get connected with advocates that actually helped me navigate through the process outside of the hospital. Because if not, it just would have been a lengthy bill.
Is there anything that you would tell parents on this journey that would help them cut that time down? Because a lot of times that's the pain point.
What I would tell people, especially when you first give birth to a child with a disability, the resources is actually in the hospital. So it's for the hospital social services department to connect you to what resources is available. So the important thing that I would say to people, or professionals mainly, is to keep those resources updated, the information updated, so that parents can know and have somebody there to explain to them the processes that they need to go through in order to start trying to get services and the resources that they need to help them along their journey.
Well, thank you for putting us on the right path. I know
Yes,
you're helping
ma'am.
a lot of people out there.
Yes.
And coming up, we got somebody to help us navigate this further with the do's and don'ts when it comes to disability. Be right back after this.
Got the feeling. Come back to me. Got the feeling.
People can get blindsided when it comes to trying to get disability benefits, even if they really should qualify. So here to help us navigate this, we got Mark Whitehead, disability attorney. Why is it that even when people have honest to goodness disability needs, they are getting denied?
Well, statistically, 2/3 of all applicants are going to get denied, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, the system is intentionally built to be difficult in the sense that the government is really concerned about people abusing the system. So they do make it difficult just from a structural standpoint.
Okay.
I think from a practical reality is a lot of people do not have proper medical documentation, and you have to understand it's not their fault. It's basically doctors are in the job of trying to heal you. So they're not necessarily in the business of documenting your functional limitations, and that's really what is lacking in most applications, is evidence of function by function limitation. As your previous guest sort of explored, you can have mental or cognitive limitations, or you can have physical limitations. But each of those is defined by a function by function process. For example, in a cognitive or mental limitation situation, what you're looking for is evidence of lack of social functioning, lack of being able to remember things, pace, persistence, concentration, fortitude, sticking with tasks, for a full day. Okay. From a physical standpoint, you're looking more at how the body operates. Can you bend, stoop, bend over, lift, manipulate your hands, manipulate your arms, carry things right. So that's from a functional standpoint. From a physical standpoint, that's what you're really looking for. And the problem is doctors typically don't document those things. Yeah. They document the diagnosis and the treatment plan, which really isn't enough evidence to get you past the disability standard that you have to meet.
So when people think about disability, they think, well, I should get some supplemental income because I can't do my job or I have to pay for other things. That's essentially what it's supposed to be for.
Well, there's two parts to this. So there's the program for children, which, as your prior guest, had her daughter with Down syndrome. She would be in that type of that system. Then there's the program for adults, which is a whole different ball of wax. For adults, what you're really saying is, I cannot work at what's called substantial gainful activity, which is just a fancy word for I'm not making a lot of money. Usually, I think the number now is about $1,500–1,600 a month. So in other words, you're not really working at a level that you could live on, or unable to work, period. And what you're asking the government for, two things. You're asking for income supplementation in the form of monthly benefits, and you're also asking for health care benefits in the form of, for Social Security disability insurance, which is what most taxpayers would apply for. You're asking for Medicare benefits. For supplemental security income, which is a different program run by the Social Security Administration as well, you're asking for income benefits, but you're also asking for Medicaid. So in Medicare and Medicaid, two separate programs, and the difference are remarkable.
Okay, so if someone listened to your list of possible reasons why they might have disability, but they want to be sure, are they going to their doctor to find out if they qualify for disability, or they need to get a lawyer like yourself?
So doctors don't really understand the disability system. And again, this is not their fault. They're not trained in this, at least for the most part. Now, there are some doctors that do specialize in functional limitations and what we call FCEs and things of that nature. Most doctors, their job is simply to get you better. So they're going to diagnose your condition, they're going to give you a treatment plan, they're going to do modalities, prescriptions, whatever it happens to be. They can't come up to the ultimate conclusion that this person can't work. That is really the purview of, in the Social Security system, what we'd call a vocational expert. So for example, you go to a hearing before a judge. This is ultimately where cases are decided. At a hearing before what's called an administrative law judge. The administrative law judge will take testimony, and then there will be a vocational expert at the hearing, and the judge will say, based on the evidence, I find that this claimant can't lift more than 10 pounds, more than 2 hours in an 8-hour day, and so forth and so forth. They'll rattle off what they see in the evidence, and then they turn around and ask the vocational expert, is this person employable at their past work, which is the first question, and is this person employable at any other job in the national economy? Gets a lot more complicated than that, but that's a simple way to explain it. So a doctor can't say that you're disabled. It's a vocational question that is generally answered by a vocational expert in a live hearing before a judge.
So you mentioned people not having the paperwork that they need. So we have the doctor involved. Do we have to go back to the doctor and say, hey, this is what I specifically need to take to this vocational expert, or how is all of that arranged?
So typically what we do is that we have a pre-printed form called a residual functional capacity questionnaire, and it asks a series of questions of the doctor in a checklist form, and they will check it, give you the answers, and they'll sign it and they'll send it back to us, and then we submit it to the court as evidence of what the doctor thinks the functional limitations are going to be. That's what we would do as lawyers. For a layperson who may be representing themselves or maybe doing their initial, wanting the doctor just to write them a letter, I would explain to the doctor, look, I need you to explain what my physical functional limitations are, limitation by limitation. Do not just say this person is disabled, please give them disability, because that really won't hold any water.
Yeah, okay.
So they need to go function by function. Can't stand, can't walk, can't lift, can't bend, twist, turn, manipulate their hands. Stamina issues, particularly people who have different, say people who have severe chronic bowel disease. We see this a lot, which means, they're kind of tied to a bathroom, or they can't work a full 8-hour day because they're chronically in pain. Things of that nature. So it's all about what you can do in an 8-hour workday, week after week, month after month, on a consistent basis without excessive absenteeism.
Okay, let me ask you this. At what point might someone need to get an attorney involved?
So you can get an attorney involved in any level. So the first level is the application. So you need to file an application with the Social Security Administration. I would advise when you file that application, you file what I would call a concurrent application. It's just you simply check off both boxes. You're going to ask for Social Security disability insurance, which is what you get by virtue of paying taxes into the system it's reflected on your W-2 over the years.
Getting that money back.
Get that money back. And the other is SSI benefits. You want to ask for both. Now, you may not qualify for both. Doesn't hurt to ask.
Okay,
Run up the flagpole, see what happens.
Yeah, we'll try to get what we can get.
So I always tell people file for both. Don't expect both, but ask. All you can do. But ultimately, what you want to do is if you can get a doctor to document the functional limitations, you can file the application by yourself. You don't necessarily need an attorney to do it. If you get denied, this is when you need an attorney to help you, because the appellate process can be complicated. Ultimately, you're going to be before a judge with a medical expert and a vocational expert, and if you don't have any experience cross-examining a doctor and cross-examining a vocational expert, you may have a difficult time.
Is the vocational expert someone we would consider on our side, or just
in theory
chosen by the court?
In theory, the medical expert and the vocational expert are supposed to be neutrals. Now, understand at this hearing, there is nobody representing the government, so there's no opposing counsel.
Okay.
There's simply a judge, there will be a court reporter, there will be probably a medical expert, probably a vocational expert. You can testify. You can bring witnesses to testify on your behalf. So it can get a little complicated, but I would say most of the issue is being able to effectively cross-examine a vocational expert or a medical expert is probably beyond what most lay people could reasonably do.
And that's when an attorney could
That's
help.
where you probably need the attorney.
Now, how long could this process take?
Your initial application is probably taking about 8 to 12 months to get an answer, which is a lot longer than it was pre-COVID.
Wow.
I would say similar to the next stage, which is you have to file a request for reconsideration, probably about the same time. And then if you get denied that second time, then you have a right to request a live hearing before the judge, which is what I mentioned. This is where most people win or lose their cases. This is the ultimate deciding point within the case.
Okay.
You know, that's probably another, could be, depending on which field office you're going to, it could be 6 months, it could be 12 months. I mean, we're talking, this could add up to 2 to 3 years.
Wow. And in the meantime, people are just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for the guidance, Mark.
Thank you.
For helping us wrap our minds around this just a bit. But good to know that people are out there that we can call on for help, like you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, guys, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
I've got the feeling. Come back to me.
Thank you to both of our guests. Now, they left one final note. You could qualify for free legal assistance in Texas with a child SSI case through Lone Star Legal Aid, or you can search for low-income legal assistance if you are in another state. If you need to run this episode back, because we got a lot of tips, go to our YouTube page, Chattin with Chelsea, and comment. Let us know if we helped you out there. And keep up with us on social at Chelsea Fox 26, and we'll see you on the next Chattin with Chelsea.